everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Mauler67. And with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing?
Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
Hello.
So great you to be here this evening as we talk about Gravity Falls. That's what we be doing.
Yeah.
We be the crazy prospector.
Just for the record, the Crazy Prospector is one of my favorite characters.
MacGuffin, yeah.
No, like in any show, if there's like a crazy prospector, I love those kind of characters. Like, I fell in love with the crazy old man when I watched Friday the 13th for the first time, because they're like, don't go in that cabin. Jason Voorhees drowned in that camp. You know, so like I just like those old crazy out of their mind dudes, but they actually speak some truth to it. So
just like Inscription, there be gold in them cards.
there be gold in them cards. Oh,
yeah, I love characters that are just like everyone has the prospector voice too. Like everyone has the same prospector voice. I don't know where the origination of that voice came from.
I don't know either.
That's a fun rabbit hole to like dive into and see if maybe I can find. I don't even know where I got mine from. You know what? It's probably the origination of the voice for me is because it's kind of like a rip on like Adam Sandler's kind of like voice where he tried to be like, "Ooh, don't be doing that now."
Or Canteen Boy.
Canteen Boy. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where the origination of that voice. That's something to look up. I feel like it has to be some type of like comedy Zeitgeist or something like that. Like
it's got to be something like that.
Like maybe I mean I could be on the nose. Like it could be like an SNL character or whatever that just became synonymous with United States and prospectors in general.
Maybe.
Look it up. Turns out it's something from like what's that prairie show that mom used to watch all the time?
Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie, like the grandpa's that way, and that's where it became like super popular. I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, I could too.
It could happen. Austin, how's your day, man?
It's been eventful. Let's just say that it's been just crazy a little bit actually.
Okay.
Hopefully
everything's good.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is going on at work, and it's just, I work with individuals, so, they have behavior sometimes, so, like, I have to deal with that, and that can just put a lot of stress on your job, you're trying to calm them down, trying to explain to them, because, some of them can't comprehend, when you are trying to be sincere, and you'll be like, hey, I'm just looking out for you, I'm not trying to be mean here, I'm just giving you this option, telling you this option, that you might want to look at before you jump the gun, and it happens a lot at my job. So it's kind of hard, because like you really, like when you start a job like that, you care a lot. You care about like the people you work with, and you care for like the people you give care to. So it's kind of hard to it takes a big person to do a job like that, I've realized. So I've kind of just developed into that, but sometimes it can be stressful, and you got stressful at any job's stressful sometimes. You're never going to have a job where it's like, I have no stress. That just doesn't work out. So it's been okay today, and I've been having such a busy like last couple weeks because we just you came back to Ohio again.
Yep.
I had to drive out there with my cousins, which they had a blast going out because they've never been to Pittsburgh. So that was a lot of fun. And then I had to drive you back on Monday. So yeah, we had I was just like worn out, so I told my wife this weekend, I was like, hey, I don't want to do anything this weekend because like next weekend I have something planned. And I was like, I just want to make sure that I'm ready for that weekend because I really want to enjoy myself that weekend. I was like, so I kind of don't want to do anything. And then 2 days ago, she's like, hey, by the way, we're doing a game night. I was like, oh no.
A lot of extra.
Yeah, so like, it's kind of that way. So it is what it is. Like I just come to terms that like my life will always be busy. And speaking of busy, um, a lot of people don't know this on the podcast, but I am having a child.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's been kind of hectic with the ultrasounds and like getting the things going and stuff like that. Cause like, a child's a big, important, busy thing. Like, even before the child's born, it's very busy because, you got to constantly make sure you go to doctor's appointments. The person's got to eat right. You got to like, my wife is so bad at drinking water. So like I constantly have to pound her head in like with water. I'm like, you have to drink water. Like I pound it in her head. Like you have to drink water. This is, and the wording was weird on that, but, and that, and then like getting like a bag prepared and like setting up for a baby, like the crib and everything like that and getting nursery, it's fun, but it is very stressful, and like all the changes that she goes through, her emotions and everything like that. So it's kind of hard, so things like that, some days she'll be like, I'm perfectly fine. Next day she'll be like, I need you. Like I am ridden with anxiety right now. Or I don't feel good, so, but I'm super excited. And, tomorrow will be 12 weeks. Well, it'd be more than that. I think it's 13 weeks. They say that she's probably 12 weeks. So we have an ultrasound tomorrow morning and then I have to go into work and then I got to work all night. And then, I get off on Thursday night, but then I gotta get right back up Friday morning because I got like other plans with people. So do stuff. So, but how was your day?
Man, my week's been fine. Just been sitting around, bored as crud at work. Can't do much. Just waiting for work to come in, and work doesn't come in, so you just kind of sit there and you wait.
Yeah.
Still getting permissions, and other than that, just been doing from work. Final Fantasy 14 just came out with a new patch. So I've been enjoying that, doing that, and what's it called? Playing that. That's what I was doing before jumping on here, and then I realized, oh crap, it's Wednesday. It's time for Bros and Shows. Whoopsies. So that's solid. That's great. But yeah, pretty easy, pretty solid day. Not real stressful for me. Nothing kind of like weird or crazy going on with me. But Austin, we've come here today to talk about the most weirdest of the weirds, the creepy, the spooky, the weirdest of the Gravity Falls. Yep, we're talking about Gravity Falls Season 1. It's a show that I absolutely love. It is one of my go-to shows whenever I want something either on the background or playing while I'm doing something else for background noise. It's the show to me that my one friend, Evan, told me. Evan loves King of the Hill. And he's like, I can listen to any episode of King of the Hill and see what's happening in my brain because I've seen it so much. And so he would be at work. We were only allowed to have MP3 players on, and he would have full episodes as audio format, so he could just listen to them. That's what this show is with me. I'm able to listen to any of it and just know what's happening and going on. In fact, there was a side of me that's like, I shouldn't watch season 1, and instead just look at the thumbnails and see if I remember everything about the season 1. I still watched it, but when I looked at everything, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember all these episodes. This is all great. The only thing I had to be careful of is which episodes are in season 2 and not season 1.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, that's why I need to watch it, just that way I remember like the pacing, because I feel like in season 1 there's a little bit of like there's 2 episodes to me that are kind of similar to each other, but they're altogether different. That I sometimes think the second one's in the second season, not in the first season, because of how the starting premise is very similar.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, I love this show. Fantastic. I found it when I first started working at BNY. I got Hulu, and I was looking for something to watch, and I saw this animation. I was like, why not? I'll give it a watch, and fell in love with it instantly. I picked it up because I just need a show to watch, and I'm so glad I did. But Austin, I forced you to watch. What did you know of Gravity Falls before?
So the only thing I knew about Gravity Falls actually was between me and you.
Okay.
Josiah surprised me on my birthday to come to Disney World, and there is, if you've ever been to a Disney World resort, most of the channels are owned by Disney. They don't really have like, except for news channels, they're all, so they don't have a lot of like the, HBO or Showtime or anything like that, or like, like some of those channels that you would expect on like a usual hotel thing. But they had a channel that played cartoons like nonstop, and it was like 3 different cartoons if I remember it. It was the Mickey short episodes, which is called the New Mickey Mouse, and then you had the Big Green. I think it was called the Big O Greens or something like that.
It's something greens. It's like big greens in a small city or something
in a small city or something like that. And then Gravity Falls was playing. And I remember watching the first episode of Gravity Falls that I watched was the episode with the arcade game. I remember that one. And what was it? Like, I actually really enjoyed it. And you were like, you've never watched Gravity Falls? And I was like, no. I was like, I've heard about Gravity Falls because of Kristen Shaw being in What We Do in the Shadows and Last Man on Earth. I knew that was one of the shows she did. I was kind of like wanting to watch it, and I was like, sooner or later he's going to get me to watch it. And you said something like, I actually wanted to do that on the podcast.
Yep.
So I actually just didn't watch it. Like, I was like, I'm not going to watch this because it'll be a better time if I watch it during the podcast, because it would be something we'll get to talk about and it'll be a show, instead of like, me binge watching all of it and then being like, yeah, it was good, because sometimes that like ruins like the feel of it if I do that. Like, it was so hard today, so I actually finished it up today. I watched the last episode today because I binge watched a whole bunch of it on Monday and Tuesday, but then I didn't want it to like I didn't want to like it to end, so I put it off until like Wednesday when I was here with one of the guys at my work. He came over and we hung out, and I was like, hey, I gotta watch these last 2 episodes. So I did, and then he saw what I was watching. He was like, oh, dude, Gravity Falls. I was like, you know this show? And he's like, dude, I love this show. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I watched it when it first came out. And I was like, oh, okay. But I found out that I shouldn't watch it with people that I don't know that can watch, because I got spoiled. Because that person, like he doesn't understand the concept of, I didn't watch the show. So he'll say things before they happen. And like, I was like, but it wasn't so bad because I kind of predicted that stuff. So I kind of knew what the overarching story was. So like, I was like, okay, I think I know why. And then when he did it, it confirmed. And I was like, really? I didn't want to be confirmed by someone else telling me this instead of like me watching the show. But overall, that's all I know from Gravity Falls, was like just, watching it at Disney. And then I was like, wow, Josiah really likes the show, because like you said, you're like, this show is awesome. This is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I was like, ooh, well, I'm not going to watch it until he wants me to watch it, because that means more to me than just binging it. So yeah, so Gravity Falls.
The first thing I will say about the show, right, is that even though it's 2 seasons and I enjoyed it so much, it could go, I would love it to go up to like more. Because it's only 2 seasons, it makes me enjoy the show more, like characters and everything. So yeah, like I think that's part of the reasons why I love it so much, is because of just the general, the shortness of it mixed with the characters. Like, so much building's done within the 2 seasons, and I'm glad. I'm sorry that you got spoiled. What did the person spoil you on?
So actually, the end. I already got the feeling because of the first episode gave me a hint at it, And then I was like, okay, this has got to be part of the overarching storyline. And then the episode where it was the Cypher episode where they go into Stan's brain and they have to like pull out the memories, and he does the whole like vending machine thing, and then they just shut the door. I was like, they're calling back on episode 1. It could be, like shows do that sometimes where it's like, oh yeah, we're calling back on this, but then they don't fulfill it because it's a huge troll. Or 2, which is this show. I knew that the show wouldn't do that. This show wouldn't do that to me. So I kind of knew. I was like, I think Stan knows about the books. And I know that he probably has, because I started piecing it together because, Gideon had book 2, and then book 3 was Dipper. I think that's right. Or it was like Dipper was 2 or whatever. So I said, okay, so there's another book because they talked about 2 books, but why would there be just 2 and 3? There has to be a number 1 book. So I was like, there's a number 1 book floating out there still. And when it was about to be revealed that they're like, oh, there's another book, because Gideon like puts the 2 books, like book 2 and 3, in the mystery shack after like Dipper leaves, and he finds the book on Dipper. He was like, oh yeah, and he's like, wait, 2 and 3, what? There's another book? And then he said, he was like, oh yeah, because Stan has it. And I was like, oh dude, why? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like I kind of guessed it, like he was gonna be a book. Oh no, we haven't done this for a while, but yeah, why don't you go ahead and start talking about Gravity Falls? My dog is being my dog, and he's like, hey, I'm interrupting everything that you're gonna do right now because I really need to go to the bathroom. So okay. I'm gonna take him out real quick.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
See, it was okay. So I'm gonna say this candidly for the audience or whatever. I'm going to also assume that everyone watching this seen season 1 at least. I kind of worried me there for a second. I thought he was going to reveal like a bigger twist in the show than just that, because the thing about Gravity Falls is like it's set up in this like mystery kind of take thing where you have Dipper and you have Mabel, and you don't really know what the like premises, what's happening in this town. But the thing that I like about the show is that like there's twists and turns and there's build up, and I think season 2 does it more than season 1. Like in season 1 you have like what's the books, who's the author, blah blah blah, and in season 2 it's much more of like what's this, what's that, which I'm not going to say what exactly they are for in case anyone's watching along with the show when listening to this. I was really afraid that his friend was going to reveal something worse than just that Dan's had the book on him. I was like, oh gosh, I was expecting a big hit, and probably for the people who have watched season 2, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Not for everyone else. Yeah, hey, you're back. All right, cool. I was just talking to everyone about how I'm like, man, I thought they were going to reveal like a harder like spoil something even worse.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, just him having the book, that's fine. Like that's something that is revealed in this season and not like a big twist or big spoiler in the second season.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's okay. That's fine. That's not the worst thing possible. But no, I'm glad you watched it. Did you like it? I don't remember if you said you liked it or not.
Okay, so
you said you were enjoying it to the point where you didn't want it to end, but like that could also mean like you enjoyed the first couple episodes and then they trailed off. Or
I will state this: the first 3 episodes didn't get me at all. That's usually how that works. Sometimes I get put into, because like most of the first couple episodes of shows always like has lore behind it, so you're not it doesn't engulf me into the environment yet, and like what is like the like the rules of this environment, what's this different location, what's different from this, what can be done in this location, what cannot. So like I kind of felt that like I was shocked a little bit because I didn't know what could be done in this environment and what was not allowed to be done in this environment. Like what I mean by that is, there were some things I was like, oh, this is very fictional, like very, very, kind of like fantasy.
Fantasy, like
Yeah, like
Cabin in the Woods
gnomes.
level of like, oh, it's just crazy stuff. Like it's not going to have a grounded reality. Okay, I get you.
And like the first episode actually kind of like I guessed because I actually put those pieces together and knew that guy was the gnomes instead of the zombie.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of things in that first episode.
Well, he opens up the first page of the book and it's gnomes. He's like, oh wait, no, it's zombies, and I was like, they're gnomes.
Yeah,
I was like, I called that. But
there's a lot of those little things that kind of lead you, which I will say is a benefit to the writers of this series, is that they know the joke they're gonna make, and so they'll make little hidden clues through it for players to find.
Yeah, and like I didn't expect some of the things to be like kind of I didn't know what the environment was. So like after the episode 3, I kind of got a feel of like how things were gonna go. So I knew that I was like, okay, so this is very fantasy driven. It's not like Scooby-Doo where it seems to be fantasy, and then at the end it's like, because the third episode is kind of like Scooby-Doo in a way, if I'm correct, if it's the third episode. It's the fishing episode, because like you think
episode
like this...
2.
Episode 2, yeah. So it's like kind of this like, at the end you come to find out it's the old man, and like he's like, I actually built this because my son don't talk to me,
My son refuses to speak to me no more.
So I was like, oh, this is Scooby-Doo-ish, and I was like, oh, okay. So
why doesn't your son talk to you and speak to you no more? Because I built a giant robot when my wife divorced me.
So
she divorced me because I built a giant robot because the town people didn't like me.
Yeah, so like I kind of was like, okay, this is kind of Scooby-Doo-ish. So some things in this show will not be real. It's just some people, like maybe there's villains. And I was like, okay, so let's see. What caught me off guard was Gideon. So the first episode of Gideon I thought was a little me. I thought Gideon was just a throwaway character. I didn't expect him to be the villain of this season and probably second season, I don't know. But I was so thrown away by it. Like it just like, I just thought it was a throwaway episode. I was like, oh, Gideon being this way. But then at the end of the episode, it was like, he has a book. And I was like, whoa, he has a book. So he's going to be around again. But I didn't expect him to be in so many other episodes where they made him like the main villain. And I actually I liked it. I was very happy about that. After episode 3 happened, or episode 2 actually, because I just realized it's a fishing episode. After that happened, I started really enjoying the show. Like I got into it. Like I was binging it at 2:00 in the morning. And I don't do that. Like I don't do that at all like now because I have to be at work at like 9:00 in the morning. I have to clock in at work. And I was binging it until like 4:00 in the morning, and I was like, I have to go to bed here.
I have to leave. I have to go. I can't be doing this no more.
And see, what's really weird is, okay, so I have this with my new Google Pixel that I have. There's a setting called bedtime setting, where it turns your phone black and white. So then like it's easier on your eyes, but also too it warns you, hey, your time that you set for your bedtime setting is on, so that means you should go to bed. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it helps with like getting you to sleep.
Yeah,
if like you're still on your phone.
Especially like it reduces your like white screen.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, so like you can pause it every 30 minutes. So if you're watching something you still want to go up, you click pause 30 minutes. I did that so many times, but there was a couple episodes when like it would go gray, and I would think it's Gravity Falls that's doing like a flashback or something in gray. And I'm like, oh, hey, that's pretty funny. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute, my bedtime thing's on. But then I keep pressing that 30-minute pause button, and before you know it, it's 4:00 in the morning. And I'm like, oh no, I gotta get to bed. I just couldn't stop watching the show. The characters that are involved in the show are very well done. Whoever wrote this show knows what they're doing. I don't feel like this show was very noticeable to me because like when someone really likes a show, they'll tell me, but like I never knew about it until like Disney, and then you were like, hey, I like this show. I've heard about the show, but like I was like, oh, some people like it. Like I haven't heard enough people. It's like you have to watch Gravity Falls. Like people, that I remember, forced me to watch Rick and Morty for the first time, or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I knew a lot of people love that show, and then like a lot of anime, like Code Geass and what's the big one, Attack on Titan and JoJo and all those. Like people are like, you have to watch this. I never got that with Gravity Falls, so I feel like there's a lot of people that are missing out on a great show. And I'm okay with it though, because I actually am going to promote this show now because I thoroughly enjoyed it. After you saying it sees only 2 seasons right now, well, 2 seasons, I was like, oh man. But what I have the hope for, and what happens sometimes, is a show runs its course and it never stops. So I'm okay with a show ending as long as it's done tastefully and well done. Like someone deserves that ending. I don't like where a show just lingers on so long that they don't know how to wrap it up. That's why Vince Gilligan is perfect at what he does, because, he said when Breaking Bad was coming out, I'm going to end the show after 7 seasons because I want it to have a good ending. Same way with Better Call Saul, with anything he does. So when a show has the cojones, that's what I'll say, to end a show, that means that show is brilliant because that person knows what the outcome is and they don't have to fill it with all this diluted bull crap and it doesn't make sense. Like Dexter is a perfect example for this, where they literally didn't think they would have to end the show, and then they ended the show, but it was so bad that they had to come out with a new season of it continuing that bad ending to fix that bad ending, and it still became bad again because there's a thing called rushing an episode or rushing a finale. And I feel right now that I am going to enjoy season 2 as much as I enjoyed season 1, and I think that the creator of the show should get more praise. I'm just gonna give him more praise. I don't know who created this show. I have to look it up. I know that Justin Roiland was part of this. But the show is great.
Alex Hirsch is the main.
Wait, isn't he the guy that plays Dipper?
No, he's the guy who plays Uncle Stan.
Okay, so he also
Stan.
Yeah, and he voices Cypher, the pyramid thing.
Possibly.
That,
I don't actually. Yes. He does. So, I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah, I've done some deep dive in the cast, and I was so happy when I usually, how I am. I deep dive into the cast after I hear someone's voice. I was like, is that who I think it is? And I have to look it up. But there was one of the cast members that caught me off guard because I was just looking through the cast and this person popped up and I was like, what? He was in this show? Who did he play? And then I look and I was like, oh, subtle. And that is Waddles. Waddles is played by one of my favorite scientists of all time, and that is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Plays Waddles in Gravity Falls, and I was like, that's amazing. I love this. And I know season 2, I actually got spoiled by one voice actor that I love. He's in season 2 supposedly, but I don't know exactly the whole gist of it. I just know that he's in it.
Yeah, sure.
And it's I always get this mixed up because I get it mixed up with the baseball player and the voice actor. John DiMaggio?
Oh, Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio. Okay. Wait, no, it's John DiMaggio because Joe DiMaggio is the baseball player. I thought so. You got me there. That was crap. I hate you. But so I'm super excited. You don't realize that this show did something for me that I've been craving. It's hard for me to watch a show, and I need something that's not like me focusing so hard on dialogue. And like Andor is a great show. I love that show, but you have to focus like all the time. And it's not fun. It's just like, it's good, but it's not fun.
It's attention. Like,
yeah,
you have to pay attention to each bit of dialogue in order to understand what's happening in this statement, or or what's happening in the next episode or whatever. Gravity Falls is the thing I like about Gravity Falls, and I say this a lot of times whenever I speak about animation shows I really like, is it's episodic while also being like seasoned based.
Yeah.
In the first episode, you're introduced to the monster of the week, the gnomes, but at the same time, you're introduced to the book. And then episode 2 comes and it's like, oh no, there's another monster of the week. Oh, but there's like something more going on here. Grunkle Stan knows more than he's letting on. In each episode, it's like after the Gideon episode, it's like Gideon's the monster this week. Ooh. Also, Gideon has a book. And like every episode leads to a like further down the season, but they're also not like you have to pay 110% in order to see that such thing. And that's why I enjoy so much about Gravity Falls. Steven Universe is also like that. Adventure Time is very much like that, except sometimes to the higher degree of just each episode kind of having its own thing. And then like multiple other shows we watch, like Being Puppy Cat. You know, you're mentioning about this show not being very like well known. I lump this show in the same category that I lump Over the Garden Wall. It is a vibe for a specific time of year. If you talk to a lot of people, they're always like, Halloween time is when I watch Gravity Falls, or fall time is when I watch Gravity Falls. Because it's very much of like the mystical creatures of the forest type deal thing. They even have an episode where it's Halloween theme, even though the series takes place in a summer setup. And for that reason, a lot of people like look to it during that time. I think another reason why it kind of went under the radar, I believe it was airing around, if not during the same time as like other big shows were happening on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender was airing during the time of this. And so a lot of the older / like teenage kids who would actually enjoy this see this animation and go, that's for kids. And then they jump to like the more adult shows, Teen Titans, whatever, right? Because I remember seeing this show and just thinking, I'm not interested in that. Looks like it's for 7 or 8 years old, you know?
Yeah.
And then watching it now, I'm like, oh no, it's not. I mean, it's meant for them, but there are so many hidden jokes in this show that kids would never understand. And it was Adam Hirsch or Alex Hirsch has been on record saying that when he would make an episode of this, he would purposely put in very bad or crude or like lewd jokes into it that were like innuendo based, that the censors would be overworked with how much they were like saying you can't have this, you can't have this, that they would overlook smaller things. It's one of the reasons why in the Hulu release you see all of the all-seeing eye all the time, because he wanted that to be part of the story. In the Disney release, they started editing that stuff out. They didn't want even that in it. Which is funny because it was originally aired on Disney. They should have seen this to begin with. And you'll also know a couple other like pretty risky jokes later on. As well. I even think there was a couple even in this season. I can't remember what they all are off the top of my head. I think there was one with Mabel and her Little Mermaid boyfriend that someone said something. It's mainly Grunkle Stan who will say the risky stuff.
Yeah.
But it's great. I also want to note, like, you've never watched Adventure Time, or you've watched some of Adventure Time, nothing really to understand anything. So the one girl, is it Candace? No, not Candace. Yeah. So Mabel has her two friends, Greta and Candy. I think her name's Candy, actually. That's the voice of BMO. And anytime I hear her name, I instantly perk up with excitement because I'm like, I recognize her voice, because you can't hide BMO's voice ever. And that was another thing that made me like this series from the get-go too, is whenever you have crossover voice actors and you hear them, you know. In fact, Austin, we were talking, when was it? It was, were we in the car? Yeah, we were in the car. And I think I was driving you around or whatever. Whenever I was back visiting, we started talking about voice actors, because you caught on to a couple voice actors from the get-go. Specifically Wendy's voice actor. You caught her instantly. You're like, I knew who that was. You already knew Christian Shaw was in this.
Yeah.
So that's great. And there's more voice actors who come in for the second season, and that just makes me more and more happier for the show. Also, I gotta ask, what was your favorite episode of this season? Because you told me your favorite at the time. I want to see if it's the same.
What did I tell you before?
How about you tell me what it is now, and then I'll tell you if it's changed.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, because there's 22 episodes of this show.
Well,
so
there's 20 episodes of this one.
No, 20. Yeah, that's 20. I always get that mixed up. Man. So I think it changed.
Okay.
Because I don't think I watched this before you went back.
Okay.
And it's the episode where Dipper and Mabel are getting angry at each other for living in the same room together. And so then Uncle Stan gives them a new key.
They find a new room.
Yeah.
And they find that carpet.
Yes,
switch vibes.
That episode is one of my favorite episodes.
You know what that episode's called?
No, I don't remember.
All the names have like fun little interesting names. That one's called Carpet Diem.
That's good. Carpet Diem.
I will say, Austin, I like that episode a lot too. You did change your episode. Originally, your episode was Irrational Treasure, which was when Dipper and Mabel finds out that the finder of the town is actually a crazy like person.
Because I related it to Jebediah Springfield of the Simpsons episode.
Yep. You were like, I like that. It was like a wonky take on what they did and how they were frauds or whatnot.
I just like the ending when Dipper's like, screw this, I'm doing this. And he ends up like giving it to her anyways, because even Mabel was like, hey, don't do this. we don't need that bad mojo. And he's like, nah, screw this. Yeah. And he just gives her, and he's like, yeah, your relative was an idiot. And he never founded crap, so.
Also, just to point out too, Carpet Diem, Irrational Treasure is obviously a joke at National Treasure. I appreciate it a lot. So, okay. Season 1 I was looking at. It doesn't have my favorite episode in season 1, but it has like a lot of bangers for me personally. I personally, it's not my favorite one, but I always like point to it as just how absurd the show is with how the humor can make me laugh. And that one's the Boy Crazy episode where Mabel finds her boy band. And they're all clones, and they're all like stupid because they've been like inbred their whole life and they haven't seen the outside.
Yeah, that's a good episode too. Because
of just the craziness. Like, who thought of the idea of like raising a boy band to make like this general profit? And then like that's the whole episode. It's just Mabel, you gotta set them free. They deserve to be free. And then they just run out like squirrels, and they're just like, oh man. I love that episode.
And there, one of my other favorite episodes of this one that I really thoroughly enjoyed was the Halloween episode.
Oh, the Summerween? Because it's not Halloween also.
Well, no, wait, no, I'm thinking the wrong one. I'm not thinking of the Halloween episode. I just realized I accidentally mashed two of them together.
Oh, okay.
It's actually the convenience store episode.
Oh, okay.
Where he's trying to impress Wendy, and he's like, hey, it's such a good episode. And like I was saying when you were back, this show hits a little bit close to home to me. I feel like Dipper when I was a child, where I felt like I had to impress people. I had to say I was older to do stuff. I, I always had a crush on this girl, and like constantly I was trying to like, be with this person, but it was just not meant to be at the time. But or at any time. But also too is I always wanted to be that person that people relied on a lot. And the ending episode was one of the reasons that I really enjoyed the show, because Mabel, what was it, when Dipper shows Uncle Stan the book and says, hey, we need to talk about this book, I found it, and Uncle Stan's like, oh my gosh, look at this, and like he takes it off and he takes it away.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how are we supposed to like defend ourselves against something? And Mabel repeats, you don't need a book, you never needed a book, it's always been you. And sometimes you need that, like, I'm trying to think of the word,
motivation,
like,
oh yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. There's a term that has entered my brain too, and then it instantly escaped. I was like, wait, no, that was the term. Confidence.
Yeah. Confidence.
You need the confidence. Yeah.
I remember why this hits so close to home is I was never confident in my life for a long time, where I was never confident in the work I did, never was confident in anything I did. And I was always scared of other people telling me that I did wrong. Mm-hmm. And I hated it. And, sorry to rant this a little bit, guys, but there was a time where when I met my future wife, my father-in-law did workshops where these people would show up and build metal objects, and they would pay for it. Well, me being just the nice guy was like, hey, if you ever want to let your assistant to like, take a break or something, or he can't make it, because he was driving from Akron every weekend to come down and work in the shop. And I was like, hey, I could step in. And I'll never forget, like, the first time I stepped in that shop, he's like, oh yeah, I'll take you up on that. So he did. And I went over and I used a tape measure to measure out 3 3/16 or whatever it was. And in my head, I always used to have this thing in my head that would be like, that's not right. If you cut that, he's going to be very disappointed in you. You need to get him to double check that for you. So I walked over to him and I said, hey, could you come check this real quick and make sure this is 3/16? And he looked at me and he goes, have confidence in yourself. You're a smart man. I know you can do this. You don't need me to come over there. After he told me that, I was blown away, because after I cut it, it was perfect. It was the right measurement. And for some odd reason, that thing in my head went away. I just needed that person to tell me that. I don't know what it was, but it changed my life. Because, I wasn't confident in things. And like, that's why now I'm doing things that I've never done before. Like go to college. I was so scared to go to college for a long time. I didn't have confidence in myself. I was like, you failed at school and you did a lot of things at school that made you fail. And, you shouldn't go to college. You're just going to fail out. But then I go to college after not having that whole confidence thing and having confidence myself. And I get like A's, and I'm just like, what did I do wrong? It was always that second guessing that I was doing to myself, where I was setting myself up for failure. And so when I watched that episode, it made me feel like this is me. Like Dipper has some type of characteristic that makes me feel that way. He was me. And when Mabel said that, I teared up. I was like, I needed to hear that. And Tommy Boy was the person that did that for me. And people do that throughout my life, and I just never listened to them. But it feels so good that like something like that is relatable to people. I'm not the only one out there that's alone, that feels that way.
I also think, if I remember correctly, wasn't it in the episode where they go into Stan's mind, the episode also where Dipper is like super mad at Stan because he's treating him poorly and whatnot, and then you find out in the end, it's like Dipper's Stan's like, it's not that I hate him, it's just I was just like that as a kid.
Yeah, my
and
dad made
I
me take
need someone to
boxing
be
lessons.
rough. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need someone to like stuff me out. He's like, the kid's gonna be good. He just needs to be pushed a little bit to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the whole like reconcile that Dipper has to realize that Stan doesn't actually hate him. He's just believes that he needs like a little push in order to be strong.
Yeah, and I felt like that it makes me feel like Dipper was something I need to watch. Like it brought me back to like saying that there's other people out there that suffer from that, like I do, where they rely on something so much that they don't do it themselves, and they're the person that actually is the person that does that stuff for them. So yeah, I really think that the show made me feel things that I didn't expect to feel. In a show like this where there's dinosaurs, literally dinosaurs.
Wait, hold on. Was that in this season?
Yeah, it was when they take
you're
Waddle.
right.
Yeah, they take Waddle.
Yeah.
Because he leaves them out in the yard. Yeah.
Lamb before swine. Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone thinks
Lamb
old
before
Prospector's dead. Yeah, Land Before Time.
I ate my way out.
I ate my way out of all the dinosaurs. I knew that was coming. I was waiting for that.
That's one of the things, like the concept to think about, you know, right? Just like, that Prospector just killed that baby dinosaur. You can't see that on screen. He just straight up did that. Thanks, Molly, for covering me with your tail. I appreciate that.
And you know what's really cool that the episode I was talking about with the ghosts at the convenience store is, I remember being a teenager and constantly we would always try to go ghost hunting. We'd break into places and like try to do this ghost hunting thing. And I was
no
always
real concept of what it meant. It just
let's
go into this rundown place. Oh,
and I was terrified. Even though I know that stuff isn't real, like I feel like it's not real. You know, some people believe it. You know, whatever. I was terrified. I was awful. Like I was like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? We used to have a place in Jellaway. It was called the Arboretum, and we used to go on walks like late at night in the Arboretum with like my buddy Ryan and Carrot and Cody, and deer would jump out of the middle of nowhere and it scared the crap out of me. But they would try to put a spin on it, like there's a killer or something out in the woods and stuff, and it terrified me.
Remember we all wanted to like break into the one old convenience store that was down in Jellaway.
Oh yeah, the general store.
We never did, because obviously like someone owned it and we're like, we can't do that.
Yeah, we don't want to break and entering.
Remember driving around seeing like old houses that no one's lived in for a while and just be like, oh, we should go there one day. I'm the ghost in the old Diller's home.
But yeah, this first season of the show, I'm actually excited to see season 2. I've seen like some of the voice actors that are part of season 2, but I don't know what they play. I kind of picked up on some of the voice actors, like Jennifer Coolidge is in this. She was Lazy Susan.
Lazy Susan.
Yeah, I got that lazy eye. Yeah, it's Jennifer Coolidge. Jennifer Coolidge played Stifler's mom in American Pie.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? Yeah, when you say that, I can hear. Okay, thanks.
And she played the wife in Down to Earth, the one that tried to kill him, and then she becomes faithful when he comes back to life. The Chris Rock movie. So yeah, but like I know, like, and I identified T.J. Miller right away.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that was one of the other voices that you caught on and we were talking about.
Yeah, and then of course Justin Roiland. Justin Roiland played the time traveler dude, but he also played a couple commercials. Yeah. I also want to say this too.
Him and Alex Hirsch are good friends. There's a video I'm going to show you when this is done. Do you remember? You know who Equal 3 is?
I don't think so.
Ethan Klein. Does that name ring a bell?
Ethan Klein. Where have I heard that?
He's like a YouTuber / like podcaster.
Probably.
For Equal 3. When he first began his podcast, they did a charity stream, and they had Justin Roiland and Alex Hirsch on the show, and they talked for a good couple hours about it. I actually think they used to be roommates at one point. But there's a special video that they did where they both sang they sang a song together, but one was Uncle Scan, the other one was Rick. And so they like played their characters singing the song together, and you can easily find animations of it all over the place. We'll watch it whenever we get done with season 2. Man, Molly just does not want me to stop petting her right now. I am amazed by this, actually.
You just see like a tail like go in between the camera the whole time. It's
and then
like
just starts like flapping back and forth. Yeah. That's why I'm like trying to like be like, pet Molly. Yep, you like me petting. All right, you good? Nope. Want to keep going. Yeah, but that time traveler episode is one of my favorite episodes because it does the one thing that I love that shows do, and that is whenever they introduce a time element thing, they include those elements in the past episodes. So all the scenes that you see where he goes back and they go back in time, they see the time traveler doing something or whatever like that. You can see it in the episodes. In the boat episodes, you see the time traveler in the back picking up the screwdriver, and so on and so forth. And I love that. I'm like, that makes me like the episode so much more. But yeah, Gravity Falls is great and fantastic. I enjoy it. Austin, I have to ask you. I want to know what's your prediction for season 2? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think will be the main story thing? Yeah.
Well, I'd have to say, to leaving off on it, Stan activates whatever he does at the end of the season.
Okay.
I also feel that there's a lot of things that we are hinted at, but we're not like sure about. And what I mean by that is Gideon's return.
Yeah.
Of course, kind of, because he's like, I'll meet you again. Gideon has to come back at some point because he was such a huge part of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to come back for season 2, and maybe he becomes like something else is a bigger problem than Gideon, and Gideon realizes it and they have to team up or something.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen stuff like that, and that might be something. I also feel that I don't know how this works. There is I'm rooting for Wendy and Dipper.
Oh, I'm not.
I'm rooting for
They're
them.
way too. They're like at the
young.
age where that if Wendy ended up dating him,
yeah,
she would be hit with that
Well,
P word very quickly.
I thought that it would be more of like at the end of this series. Well, because there's only
like
2
a time
seasons.
skip type deal thing.
Yeah, kind of like how regular
okay.
show was, where like regular show, like they skipped.
Oh, okay,
and,
I
like,
get what you mean.
And like they were older, and they were married and had children and stuff like that. Kind of deal. I'm kind of rooting for that just because I like Dipper so much that I know how it feels to like love someone that's a little bit older and then be like, yeah, like
I think isn't she like 10 years older than him though? She's like 17 and he's like 7.
He's 12.
He's 12. Okay.
So he's not that
younger.
bad.
Yeah, he's younger than he's older than I thought he was, but I still thought he was.
Yeah, because
really
the episode of the convenience store, remember when he says he's 13 years old, but then he gets there and the only way he can defeat them is saying that he's 12 years old, and they're like, oh, it's the teen. He's not a teenager.
He's not a teen, but sing the song. Did you?
Yeah, the little
I
lamb
also
song.
sent you that
I
TikTok.
just saw that when I went to the bathroom, and whoever made the Cult of the Lamb sing along with that lamb song won the internet for me today.
Yeah, basically,
was
the little Lammy song that Dipper plays, someone animated out to the video game Cult of the Lamb, like a little lamb, singing it, and it was absolutely perfect. It was.
Oh, it was amazing. Whoever did it, hey, props on you. You're a great man.
I'm just glad I could send that to you now.
I'm just glad that it wasn't the same meme. Let me do this for you, because my For You page is blown up by that.
It also doesn't help that I'm like mass sending them to you too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the TikTok thinks you're liking it, so the algorithm keeps throwing them at you.
Yeah, and then like I literally had to text you and say stop.
Yeah, that just motivated me more.
Yeah, I know.
But no, okay, cool. I have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think the author was?
Oh, the author to the book.
Yeah. The one who wrote all the books. Who do you think he was? Or she or they?
So the person that I think it
Dipper
is,
calls him a he.
Yeah, Dipper calls him a he. But I think it's actually I don't know. I have two theories on this.
Okay.
One theory is I think it is oh shoot. Why am I drawing a blank? Why am I drawing a blank here? I just had those in my head. The two theories I had was I think it could be the guy that invented like that came up with it. Well, no, it wasn't the president, but I think it was like the other person that was part of the town that they thought, you know, he was a drunk or whatever it was, or he was a nuthead. You know who I'm thinking about, like what was it? In the episode Pioneer Day, you know, the person that they reveal that's a fraud. I think it's probably him.
Yeah. Okay.
But the other thing I think it might be is I might think it's probably someone that has to deal with a relative of one of the people that is part of the shack. And I think it's something that has to do with probably Zeus. I don't know exactly, because the thing is Zeus is a little bit suspicious. He's my favorite character.
Oh, I love
Him and
Zeus
Dipper
too.
are my favorite.
When you were saying like Zeus, Dipper reminds you a lot of yourself, my brain was like, I felt more connected with Zeus than anyone else there, I'll be honest.
Zeus does like those subtle things of comedy that I love. Like, especially, you know, like you'll see in the trailer here soon where he covers up the island's name and it's like Bud Island. You know, that's just stuff that I love. I like those little puns, and he's a perfect character for that. And I just feel that maybe Zeus has something to do with like why he's still working at the shack, and why he's like constantly there. So I don't know exactly, or Zeus is acting this way because he's throwing off, he's like going to defend the shack from something. I just feel, because like he does some things where he comes in a clutch a lot of the times, you know. And I was like, that's suspicious. Like him driving the bus, you know, when he's like, I've only been driving this bus for like 40 minutes. You know, I'm just like, you're doing pretty dang good. You know, or like when he like hits the candy demon in the Halloween type episode, or you know, he just kills it, and then he starts running away from it, like driving the truck. I just feel that like he is leading off a little bit too dumb, and I feel like he's going to be a little bit smarter, or something happened to him that made him that way. I don't know. I don't know, but it has to involve like something that's part of the Mystery Shack. Like I just feel like something, you know, is the reason why the Mystery Shack's there, and why everyone wants, you know, like Gideon wants it or something like that. I just feel like something's there that I'm missing, or, you know, I'm missing something from season 1. And that's why after I get off this podcast, I am going to go lay down in my bed, and I'm going to watch probably like 5 episodes of the show. And I'm going to go right to bed, because
it's a solid like binge and watch show.
Oh man, I finished a show like at like, it was probably about like 1 o'clock today, and I had to work until 7, and I watch a lot of TV at my work sometimes because the other person doesn't want to do anything. It took me so much strength to be like, don't watch the 2nd season yet. And I was like, just do the podcast, go in it blindly. So then, because I know that you ask those questions, you're like, so what do you think season 2 is going to be about? And I wanted to give you my honest answer, because then it gives me more gratification, is if I'm right at any time, then I can come back and be like, yeah, I was right, you know, instead of, oh yeah, I kind of already knew this. You know, that's why I stayed away from a lot of spoiler stuff. I didn't really look up too much. All I looked up was the cast. I have not read any of the detail or anything like that.
Which could be a spoiler at some point.
But which is, but like I'm not looking at the names of the characters. I'm just looking at the voice actors that are in the show. Like Joe DiMaggio, you know, Will Forte is one of my favorite people of all time, and I'm so excited. That's why I'm going to go and watch episodes. Hopefully Will Forte's in it, because it says he's in 14 episodes of the show. So I'm pretty excited. So
all right, sounds good. Yeah. Austin, I will say that in season 2 you do find out some things about Zeus and Zeus's past. And you also get to meet a family member of Zeus's, who I really enjoy personally.
Well, we only seen one family member from Zeus's so far that I know of, which is his grandma.
Oh yeah.
I have to vacuum my lips now.
Which is yeah.
Now,
I
I will
forgot
say
she
this.
made an appearance in the season. I knew she
did.
was in the second season. I didn't know she was in the first
Now,
one. But
I will-
forgot that after Gideon takes the shack, that's where they hold up on.
So I actually want to state this. I actually put it in my promo today on Facebook, but it's one of my favorite lines I'm ever going to do when someone is feeling down.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Stan says it. So the episode where I forget his name, the guy that plays TJ Miller, Robbie manipulates Wendy to be his, to stay with him, and they go to make out point. And Dipper shows up with Stan. They prove that the record was manipulating her, and she breaks up with him. He starts crying in the car, and Stan leans up against the van. He goes, "Hey, don't cry so much, kid. The apocalypse is coming. You should bury your gold. You've been buying gold, right?"
You've been buying gold, right?
I'm gonna use that every time because it was the line that made me burst out and laugh.
Yeah.
That sometimes when you have those bad moments, where someone's going through a lot, or they're just grieving or something, you just say something like that and it brightens someone's day just a little bit, because they're like, what the heck are you saying? And I'm gonna keep that in my back catalog, right there. And there's actually a couple other sayings I have because I laugh so hard that I'm gonna use it when we play games. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm super stoked for season 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones to come. Season 2 I think has some absolutely a lot of my favorite episodes, and it also has a lot of my favorite how you say it, combos and duos where certain characters interact with each other. It's very fun. I will also say this: the tone shifts dramatically, and you'll know when that happens. You'll feel it, and it doesn't shift for the bad or for darkness or whatever like that. Just the story becomes different. It's okay, I feel like this is now everything we've collected at this point has been leading to these next so many things. So I'll be happy to hear from you, to talk to you again next week. I absolutely love this show. I'm glad you're enjoying it as much as I am, and it's hopefully something you'll now have on your rotation from now on.
It's like we've talked about this before with shows, and Futurama is a guilty one of mine where you could just put it on as background noise.
Yep.
This is a show I see me just being you know what, I'm gonna watch some Gravity Falls. I just feel like that. And I agree, whoever came up with the concept of it's a fall time show, I 100% understand how this became that way, because it has that spooky vibe, that vibe. And I love it. That's why I actually fell on. Yes, I love it.
Yep.
So.
Well, I'm glad you do, Austin. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. This talked about it. Next week we are doing Gravity Falls season 2. Same time, 8:15, Wednesday nights. That's the benefit of the new job, is that I actually have a consistent schedule that I can do now. Yeah. That's awesome. And as long as you're able to do it, I'm able to do it. Well, Austin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone who has joined in for either the stream or watching on audio form. Thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you so much for tuning in.